discussion.
Sure, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Good evening, Stephen. And it is a pleasure for us to have you with us today as a speaker on the topic, the importance of space technology for integrated development in Africa. Thank you for your honoring us with your presence and for sharing your experience in space science on today's topic with the young of Africa. Before going you to floor for your presentation, I will introduce your biography and in French for those who are following us. Bonsoir à tous et heureux de vous avoir à cette conférence en ligne. Monsieur Stéphane est chercheur principal au sein du groupe de recherche Nouveaux écosystèmes et données du programme Analyse spécifique avancée à l'IIASA. Il est titulaire d'une maîtrise en information géographique pour le développement de l'Université de Durham au Royaume-Uni et un doctorat de l'Université de Leeds au Royaume-Uni. Après avoir travaillé comme chercheur au Centre commun de recherche CCR d'Ispra, Italie, il a rejoint l'IIASA en tant que chercheur où il est depuis devenu l'initiateur et le principal artisan du projet GeoWiki.org et de plusieurs autres projets. Il a été chercheur principal du projet Crowdland Consolidator Grants, financé par le Conseil européen de la recherche, ainsi que des projets Land Sense et We Observe, financés par le programme Horizon 2020 de l'Union européenne pour la recherche et l'innovation. Il dirige actuellement le développement de nouvelles plateformes Picture Peer, financées par une subvention de l'Union européenne de validation de concepts. Depuis 2009, M. Steffen a occupé diverses fonctions, notamment celle de coordonnateur de recherche principale, de responsable de l'eau du travail ou de chef projet, gérant ainsi un large éventail de tâches et un budget total d'environ 4,2 millions d'euros. Il est auteur de plus de 160 publications évaluées par des pairs et a publié de nombreux articles dans des revues scientifiques de haut niveau. Les recherches de M. Steffen portent sur des solutions transformatrices pour la société et les politiques publiques, l'apprentissage automatique et l'intelligence artificielle, l'observation de la Terre, les sciences participatives, le crowdsourcing, l'information géographique volontaire et les données générées par des citoyens. Il s'intéresse particulièrement aux applications de l'observation de la Terre, à la sécurité alimentaire et à la science de l'utilisation des terres, à la surveillance de la végétation à l'échelle mondiale et régionale, à l'estimation des rendements et des superficies cultivées, aux jeux sérieux, à la gamification, à la collecte de données in situ sur l'utilisation et la couverture des sols via les technologies mobiles ainsi qu'au rôle des sciences participatives dans le suivi et la mise en œuvre des objectifs de développement durable. Monsieur Stephen fera son intervention en anglais. Mr. Stephen will speak in English. Mr. Stephen, you are the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Um, you want to give me the whole presentation or you want me to stop and then you translate? What do you prefer?
Well, you can speak in English if you finish.
For the
Yes.
whole, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, that's fine. Yeah, very very good. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be with you and to share my thoughts about um, what are the opportunities for the youth using Earth observation in Africa. So I will speak more broadly about Africa, not only about Cote d'Ivoire, because maybe you will be interested in understanding what are the opportunities of Earth observation for the whole continent, where you have different environmental conditions. In Cote d'Ivoire, you don't have droughts, but drought is a big issue and water shortage in other places of Africa. So I will also refer to that. It's a pleasure to introduce to you Earth observation technologies and what it can do. Initially, when you think about Earth observation, you think about going to space, going to the moon, and all sorts of things. But I think the most useful applications of satellites and of space technologies is really to be able to monitor our planet. And there has been a lot of developments in the last 30 years. For example, there are many more satellites now going around the Earth, observing every day. Initially, in the 80s, there was some initial satellite, so-called AVHR. It was 1 kilometer resolution, very coarse resolution. It was in the 1980s. And then increasingly, the resolution increased a lot. And by now, we have free and open data from the Europeans' Copernicus program called Sentinel on 10-meter resolution. So this is free and open data which is accessible to everybody, which can be used. And there are a lot of opportunities using that data for young Africans to build companies, to build services in different sectors with respect to food security, with respect to climate variability, with respect to water management, with respect to land degradation, and with respect to carbon, the carbon market. As you know, storing carbon in trees and afforestation when land has been degraded is very important for biodiversity, but it also offers business opportunities. So if you can show that carbon is stored, more carbon is stored than what normally is happening at that place, you can actually make a case to earn money also on the international market where you demonstrate that carbon is extracted from the atmosphere. But I want to go step by step on different applications. One important one in Africa is agriculture. So agriculture is a very important economic activity in Africa. And one of the biggest threats to agriculture is droughts, especially in some places, the Horn of Africa, for example, also in some places in Western Africa, but also in Southern Africa, the Sahel zone, you have droughts as a big problem. And some countries, and I give here the country of Kenya, needs to make certain decisions before the end of the growing season to import food or not. So when there is a drought, accurate and good quality area estimates and production estimates of the harvest, for example, for maize, is extremely important. So if you get it wrong, you might open up your borders and import, and these imports are not in the end consumed. Maybe there is more production in the country than you think. So therefore, using maybe satellite together with Earth observation, together with ground observations as well, is what you need. You need a kind of sample. So you need to draw a stratified sample over a country. And you can then, together with Earth observation, where you know roughly where maize is cultivated, do some area estimates. You can also use Earth observation for yield estimates. Simply, for example, the normalized difference vegetation index, NDVI, can give you some initial indication if there is a drought and to what degree maybe yields might be affected. So together with area and yield, you get production. This is important to get good production estimates before the harvest because it's relevant for the food balance sheet. We learned that just recently when I was in Kenya. Sorry?
No
Okay,
problem.
so there are some people
Yes.
in the call
Yes.
who are talking, so they might want to mute. Anyway, so food security is really, really important, and remote sensing can really help to support that. And the opportunities for the youth are to build opportunities for farmers, for example, to services for farmers, but also for governments when they have to do their food balance sheets and to get the food balance sheets correct. Remote sensing can really help. Another aspect is monitoring of forest. And in Africa and especially in Cote d'Ivoire, you do still have a lot of forest. Forest degradation and the deforestation and the monitoring is really what is many times needed for governments, but also for companies. For example, cultivating cocoa, so chocolate growers. You want to make sure also if you want to export that, and a lot of exports from Cote d'Ivoire go to Europe, that your cocoa plantation has not led to deforestation. And this is really important, otherwise you cannot sell that cocoa in Europe anymore, starting from the year 2027. So it will be enforced next year. So having tools to monitor deforestation using the satellite images, helping also operators and also growers in Africa to make sure they can prove that their products are deforestation free is another business opportunity for young people in Africa, as well as monitoring water resources. With that, I think I can initially stop here. I think you have heard that there are many different ways remote sensing, in particular observation, can be used for vegetation monitoring, for forest monitoring, for agricultural monitoring. And I have also outlined that both ground observations are really important together, and they can be combined with satellite information to come up with good estimates of production, for example. Sometimes this can potentially also be applied to, one of your biggest in Cote d'Ivoire sectors, which is the cocoa sector. Understanding also the condition on the health of the plantations can be a way, but also understanding where degradation has happened and finding places where Forest can be regrown and afforestation can happen. And locating those places is another way where Earth observation can help. And with that, I think I stop and I would be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stephen, for your presentation. Merci, Stephen, pour cette brillante présentation. Je vais poser certainement quelques questions. Éventuellement, si quelques participants ont quelques questions, ils pourront aussi les poser rapidement. Alors, I say, Mr. Stephen, thank you for your brilliant speech. I'm going to ask you a few questions following your presentation. I will ask the question in French and then in English. Okay? Okay. First, quelles sont les compétences que les jeunes Africains doivent avoir pour être opérationnels dans le domaine spatial? In English, what skill do young Africans need to be operational in the space sector?
Yes. That these are, of course, very important question. Of course, what is in general an important component to get the skills first is that the country, but also international initiatives have sufficient capacity building, sufficient transfer of knowledge is needed. Capacities have to build in schools and universities for understanding remote sensing, but very particular what specific skills are needed. In general, I think it is good to have IT skills. IT skills more broadly are very useful also for remote sensing. In particularly programming skills such as Python are really good to have, but also a more broader understanding of remote sensing, understanding how satellites work, how they record data, what bands are available, how to interpret remote sensing data, and how to convert the spectral information you get from remote sensing to meaningful land cover and land use categories, and learning about latest developments in machine learning, in AI, and how to develop those algorithms to get useful information on the monitoring side will be needed. So remote sensing skills, GIS skills, geographical information system skills, being able to overlay these resulting maps with other information, combining them with potentially also socioeconomic information, locations of towns and settlements, understanding where poverty is. These kind of skills can be quite useful also for spatial planning, and for other applications. So it's always good to have a broad knowledge, but what is for sure useful is computer IT skills. And then very particular, there is a tool, it's called Google Earth Engine. So for example, there is a lot of free and open data now, and the big problem is the storage. Where do you put all this data? It needs a lot of storage. So it might take you a long time with a bad internet connection to download this data, but you can access some of this data in the cloud. So uh, if you learn, for example, how to use Google Earth Engine, there's a lot of manuals out there and a lot of tutorials you can use. You can quite quickly with Python or with JavaScript learn how to build your own applications in Google Earth Engine and use directly Earth observation for your needs in Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And second question is, quelles sont les dynamiques nouvelles d'utilisation des sciences spatiales qui permettent de fédérer l'ensemble des bonnes pratiques qui optimisent la définition des politiques de développement. In English, what are the new dynamics in the use of space science that bring together all the best practices that optimize the definition of development policies?
Yes, so I think um, every nation now, and in particular Africa, is very keen to decide on policies which help the development of the country, and to move the country forward in terms of development. Of course, I think it's important to strengthen existing sectors such as the agricultural sector. But I think there are a lot of new opportunities in Africa. We can see it, that there is a lot of use of open source software in a lot of places where new hubs, impact hubs are being generated, and the young generation, especially in Africa, is very agile in learning about new computer skills, about applying IT in a creative way, and trying to use AI knowledge, and the new developments currently in AI technologies also for Africa. So, as we all know, the big buzzword is AI. And I think there are for sure a lot of opportunities in applying machine learning, in applying computer sciences, for, in the field of AI, but also AI itself can be extremely useful in acquiring knowledge. So what was before a teacher can be partly, not fully, but partly replaced by AI. So there is a lot of knowledge now accessible to Africans, free and open, for acquiring new cutting edge skills, and also for understanding what are the entrepreneurial opportunities in Africa. So I think a artificial intelligence, AI, can really have a big role, and those people becoming familiar, understanding how to use AI in a good way, is important. At the same time, it's also important to see the limitations of AI and not blindly believe in it, to critically examine it, to know it can be wrong, and to verify uh, um, yourself, the quality of what AI produces. So critical thinking, reflection will always be needed. Yeah.
Okay,
So I
okay,
think you're muted now.
okay. You hear me?
Yes, now I hear
Okay,
you again.
okay. Next question is, quel conseil donneriez-vous à la jeunesse africaine pour une meilleure appropriation des sciences spatiales afin qu'ils soient de véritables acteurs du développement de l'Afrique? What advice would you give to African youth to help them better understand space science so that they can become true actors in Africa's development?
Yeah, so I think one general advice is to be open, to creative, to be curious, to be able, to learn new things. In particular, if you are interested to, to build your own business, I think what is very important to understand what works already. So what has been proven to work, where are currently the business opportunities in Africa, and what does already work in other countries in Africa. So I think south to south learning is a very good way of moving forward. So, good reflection, but also looking out to already existing success stories where businesses have already been successfully built. There are some very interesting businesses I know in Kenya. So I've been to Kenya. I looked at that and I see that there is a very creative youth also building new applications for the collection of data using mobile phones, for example. Also looking what already exists in GitHub, open source repositories, what can be already used and what building blocks already exist out there to build some successful kind of business opportunity. And then I think what is very important is to understand the needs of the countries, to talk to the stakeholders in the country, talk to the governments, talk to the local authorities, talk to the decision makers, what information they need and what information can be derived from remote sensing to help their decision making, their planning. This can also go down to farmers associations. What are their problems? Can maybe some remote sensing information help them to improve their decisions? This also relates to better understanding, seasonal weather forecast, impacts on agriculture of that, and getting state-of-the-art knowledge of these kind of forecasts, linking to existing stakeholder networks and farmer networks, as well as to other innovators and industries developing in the country. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. I go to take a last question with Soro, one for participant. And Soro, you have the question. After your question, I give the floor Stefan to conclude this.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you for all. I'm Mr. Soro. I'm an forestry engineer in Ivory Coast. But I think that the real problem of African countries is based on regulatory problems. In I work in forest domain, but I haven't some materials to make remote sensing. We know that if we want to protect forest, now we must need for the remote sensing apparatus. By in our countries, we have the problems of regulatory problems. We have the problem of electricity in Africa, in some part of the Africa world. We need for electricity. The real problems, the real and the price of remote sensing apparatus, and the problem also of the government for the regulatory problems.
Sorry, I couldn't understand the whole thing, unfortunately, because there was some interruption
The
in the
last
question,
part
but
of your question is not
Uh,
clear.
for the last part, I
Yes.
think in our countries, if you need for some if you need for remote sensing apparatus, I know that in our
so the reglement,
these
so the
papers, I think the regulatory problems.
Okay, regulatory problems, you mean
Problems.
laws in the country, is that correct?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
that's correct.
Okay,
And
so the
also,
laws, yeah.
and also to practice remote sensing, I think in some part in our countries, in a village, we have the problems of electricity.
Yes, yes, yes,
The problems of electricity is the real problems for remote sensing in our countries.
yes,
But I take an example. I was in Japan.
yes,
I was in Japan. In Japan, we have we are most remote sensing to protect forests.
yes,
We need remote sensing to survey forests
exactly,
and to make the reforestations in forests.
exactly.
Unfortunately, in our countries, we have the problems of money, financial problems,
Yes,
the problems of regulatory problems,
yes,
and the problems of electricity in some
yes,
part of our countries.
yes. No, no, I fully understand. I fully understand that for sure there are a lot of unresolved problems which do not directly relate to remote sensing, indeed. So if there is no electricity, you can't run properly a computer and then you cannot even access the cloud. That is correct. So that these are clearly some issues you have, and if there are some laws which don't allow you to properly operate certain things, these are of course also some issues. But then, as you know, there is also the European Union Deforestation Regulation, right? EUDR. So that is a law which is imposed on countries, but it also provides opportunities. So if you can show that your plantation, which is maybe next to your forest, right, is deforestation free, then you can sell your cocoa on the market. So this is what the regulation is in Europe applied to Cote d'Ivoire, which is sometimes, of course, now an issue, but it also offers opportunities. And if there is no deforestation, which has happened in the last 5 years, and you can prove that, then that means it provides you export opportunities. But yes, you are right. Of course, to use remote sensing and to show that the forest has not been degraded, you need other conditions such as electricity, such as infrastructure, such as sufficient kind of capacity on the ground, then also to run those monitoring programs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you for
Okay.
all your activation, your presentation, and I need to take your last advice for youth, and we can close this session.
Yes, so my last advice is very simple. I think Africa in general is on a very good path to development. There are still problems for sure. There are very basic problems such as infrastructure, such as electricity, as we have heard. But the general trend is, I think, going in the right direction. And I think, to be brave, to really do something new and to take some risk, to create entrepreneurship and a kind of startup. I think it's worth to try, it's worth to be brave, and is what is needed. Brave, optimistic, and also then a successful African youth. So with that, I close. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Thank you. That closed our conference today. for the many thanks to Mr. Steffen, and thank you all the attending. See you at our next events. Goodbye and have good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jean-Claude, thank you very much. Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.